Oh, what's up, everybody? So this is my 99 F350 7.3 Powerstroke diesel. If you remember on my last video, I talked about my clutch fan being locked up, and so what I've done is just get in preparation to change it. I've got one here. Just came in FedEx this morning, maybe actually early afternoon, and so I've taken the degas bottle and I've just disconnected the one hose from it, and got one bolt right here, and I just swung it to the side. So this way I don't have to drain it. The one hose goes down to the bottom of the radiator. I just want to get it out of the way, because to get this fan out, you have to disconnect the nut down there, which is this part right here. You have to unthread that, and the shroud and the fan has to come up as one piece. So we've got to clear this right here. It's going to be kind of in the way, but it'll move a little bit. So just wanted to kind of get that out of the way first. But here's my issue. Okay, if I take this fan, see how it's the water pump pulley is sliding under the belt. So that's completely locked up. I mean, it just moves just a little bit. The one I had in here before wasn't locking up when it got hot, and so when the weather got warm early summer, my truck was just running too hot. This was a used one I put in there. It came out of a truck that was wrecked, so lo and behold, it didn't last very long. So about 1,000 miles or so ago, I started having problems with it. It was just running wide open, so it's robbed me of some horsepower. Certainly not helping my fuel mileage any, although the fuel mileage has been great. I've been getting 10 miles an hour, 10 miles a gallon loaded, 10.8, 11 miles a gallon empty, even pulling that trailer. So anyway, I'm going to get this thing off. So to get it off, got to put a wrench on the nut right here, and the other wrench has to go. If you look down on the water pump pulley, there's 4 bolts that hold the water pump pulley to the to the actual water pump. So I built a big wrench, so to speak, instead of going out and buying some. And I do a lot of welding and stuff, so I had some scrap metal. So got this piece of steel, and I cut me made a big open-end wrench in it. If y'all can see that, there it is. So I stick that on there, and yeah, it's awkward. I really ought to cut this off or weld it, make some kind of handle for it. But I mean, it's all I did was waste 2.5 inches of my piece of steel. Someday I'll make a separate tool for it. So anyway, let me get the camera set up, and I'll get that. I gotta get the shroud disconnected, and then I fight to get that tool. Actually, I'm gonna do that first. I'm gonna get the before I loosen the shroud up and have it moving, I'm gonna get that nut loose, so that all I have to do is just spin the fan, and it'll unthread itself, and it'll come off. But so just get it where it's loose. Then I'll take the 2 bolts, one on each side, and that shroud can just pick up with the fan. It has come out all as one unit, like I said. All right, hang on. So what I use here, this is a it's a pipe wrench, but it has flats, which if you have a nut, bolt, whatever, it's got flats, use a tool with flats. Don't use something with teeth. And then of course, gotta have a cheater. There is a trick to doing this, which I don't do, and I'll kind of explain that to you a little bit. And this is awfully awkward. I'm not gonna lie. This tool is really way too big. Now that I see it, I'm going to go ahead and show this to you. So if you look on the nut, you'll see this big depression right there, and I'll show you too when I get it all the way off. If you put like an air chisel on there and just burp it real quick, it'll knock that thing loose, which is what most people do. But I don't have one of those tools, and so I do it the hard way. And you know, I'm old and hard-headed, so naturally I do things the hard way. Makes sense. So I gotta get this wrench in a position where I can have the cheater standing up and hit it with the hammer, because you're not just going to break it loose by brute force. Take a jarring motion. Okay. And you're going to loosen the nut in this direction here. My little stopper. Ah, it's coming loose. Alright, so that's just gonna spin right off of there. Like I said, I gotta get this shroud loose. Oh, I'm stuck. The tight fit there is. This cow pusher came from a rollover wreck, and that top bar is pushed way in from, I guess, from being rolled over. So it makes it a little tight to get up in there. make it easier, I'm going to get this out of the way. I assume that'll come out without that taking that top hose off. I don't think I've ever taken the hoses off to do this before. I think it'll come out of there. I may be wrong. I might have to take that top hose loose. Looks like I do have to. I hope I don't lose too much coolant. Losing coolant. Oh boy. Get something to hold this out of the way. I think. That'll work. So now we just have to like I said, just spin that the fan clutch off and pull up both at the same time. And you want to keep your hand on that blade so it doesn't hit the radiator and bend all your fins up. All right. That's it. So there's another look at that spot where they hit it with the air chisel. You can see that right there. So let's get this over on my trailer where we can swap that fan blade over to a new clutch. Hang on. Alright, let's see what we can do here. The fan blade, I was surprised when this came in. I thought, man, there ain't no way that's that clutch fan. I know them things are heavy. This fan blade is heavy. It weighs more than that thing. I think the package was a little less than 6 pounds. And I picked that thing up and it's like, oh man, It's gotta be wrong. It's gotta be wrong. But it wasn't wrong. And they do make two different versions of it. One for air conditioner, one without. And I guess it's got something to do with the temperature behind the radiator. All right, that part was easy. So the way these things work, there is a fluid, like something like hydraulic fluid inside of this thing, and so you can turn this thing, you can feel it. It's kind of hard to turn. There's actually, the fluid actually runs through an orifice, so that at low speeds, like when you're idling, like if you're sitting still, the air pressure of the fan blowing won't overcome the pressure that it takes to go through that orifice, and the fan blade will spin, and it'll cool your radiator while you're sitting there idling, you know, say while you're parked. But now when you start going faster, the air pressure from the blades, it puts more torque on this thing, and it increases that pressure of the fluid going through that orifice, and allows this thing to spin a lot slower than what the engine's running. Now, when the area behind the radiator increases to around 220 degrees, this little bimetal element here is going to twist this shaft right here. That closes off a valve. When it gets hot, it closes off the valve and doesn't let any fluid go through that orifice, causing the fan to spin at the same speed as the engine. So when that kicks in, it sounds like an airplane. It's real loud, and you can feel. They say it takes about 25 horsepower to run this fan at basically full speed. So it definitely kind of draws on the engine. You can feel it and hear it when it kicks in if you're paying attention to it. So where my position right now is, this thing does not spin, and I may very well maybe try taking it apart. I don't know, just see what's inside. We'll see. I couldn't find where anybody is taking one apart to try to fix it, so do not know how it's actually assembled. Somebody made it, so I should be able to break it. So anyway, let's get this thing put back in there and get everything all buttoned up. And one note, these things self-tighten themselves while it's running. That's why you got to beat on it so hard to get it off. So you don't have to worry too much about how tight you get it, because it's gonna tighten itself. Let's see, get this down a little lower. There we go. And it's kind of tricky to get this thing started on that thread. I think that was the easiest I've ever gotten it. Actually, it's also the easiest I've ever had one come apart. So so now it's bottomed out. But like I say, you can see I can turn it with one finger. It won't spin freely, but it will spin. Alright, now these shrouds are often tricky to get in the right position to get the there's two little tabs on the bottom, and I have to go to two holes, and my glasses are going to fall off my head. That one's in. That one's in. Bolt started. Alright, let's see if we can't get this honking wrench back on there. Them glasses just ain't gonna stay on my head. Let's see if that works for me. It's hard to find something to hold that big tool in place. All the way where I need it to be. I don't know if that's not working out. Let's see. Alright, it held it. And over there. Put it back in there. Any more of that fluid. By far the worst is over. Now I just got the little stuff to put back on. I'll get my impact. Move this tool before I drop it. All right. Socket. Now, all these little radiator support back in. Get everything started before I start cranking on anything. That one there, I'll do right. That's okay. Alright, so we just got those are done. We got our degas bottle, get back in place. This hose. There's 2 bolts go down here. Battery support area. And we get one up here. I think this is the wrong bolt. I guess there's supposed to be a shorter one in here. Don't know what happened to it, so it's a long one, but I got a big spacer on it. Alright, and we just got the hose clamp, degas bottom, hose clamp, radiator hose. Let's carry that. So yeah, that's about it. So I just have to remove my glasses. Another thing to talk about is the checking the transmission fluid on these things. So I've got my dipstick out, and if you notice, it has sections on here for that's for if it's hot, that's for if the fluid's cold. And when you go to check this thing, if the truck's been running or if you just added fluid, you got fluid up in that tube, it corrupts your reading here and it really throws you off. So I've been having a problem with this thing start acting funny on my torque converter. So I'll be at a stoplight and the thing want to stall out of me because the torque converter wouldn't release. And every now and then I go around a curve and the thing would you could just at certain speeds with you know, it's pretty much, you know, pretty heavy throttle, decent throttle, like in overdrive, top gear, and you hear the thing sound like the thing slipped just a little bit. So this last weekend I was up in North Georgia with some friends, Ford truck enthusiasts, and we had to get together up there, and so I talked to them about it, and it's like, man, that's classic symptoms of that thing being low. So what they told me, take and pull your dipstick out, warm the truck up, and of course this is after the truck has sat, so this truck hasn't moved. It hasn't moved in over a day. So take and start it up, warm it up, and then check your fluid, and you'll get a true reading. If you add fluid, or if the engine's been running, you get splashing up that tube, and so when you pull your dipstick out and you put it back in, you've smeared fluid over the part you're trying to read it, and you just can't get a good reading. So I found I've added 5 quarts of transmission fluid to this thing. I got to add water too. So I'm gonna take and warm this thing up. The dipstick is dry. The dipstick tube is dry, and I do have to make sure that tool I dropped before made it all the way to the ground. It did. It's on the ground. So let's start it up. Let's go get my keys. I'm gonna warm it up, and then we'll check that fluid, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with that fluid. Alright, I know it's a little bit noisy from that motor. It's dry. Stick it in there, let's see what it says. See, it's wet up here. I'm not really seeing it on that grid down there. I don't see it on the back. I just see it up right to the bottom of that right there. It might just be a hair low. I've dropped that off. Just gonna try it one more time. Seen it right about there. I think it needs a little bit more. I'm going to add about 1/2 quart.